What is going on, everybody? Zyonik here, and in today's video we're going to take a look at that new cup that was announced by the Sylph Arena, which is the Nightmare Cup. So today's video we're going to take an early look at the meta that is being formed, what Pokemon you guys should look out for, especially when it comes to legacy moves, and what Pokemon you might want to start powering up to prepare for this tournament. We're also going to dive into some battles at the end, and everything that is covered is going to be linked down in the comments with timestamps. So if you're looking, maybe you just want to see the battles or you wanted to see some other information, be sure to look down in the comments for those timestamps. And one more thing about the Nightmare Cup is that there were some key bans that happened this time around, that being legendary Pokemon, mythical Pokemon, Sableye, and Metachan. So if you had a Metachan from the Boulder Cup or you invested into a Sableye for the Twilight Cup, they are banned for this tournament on top of your legendaries and mythicals, which is like Cresselia, Deoxys defense forms. So ripperoni on that one, but there are a lot of good Pokemon for this Nightmare Cup. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all the latest Pokemon Go PvP content. But without further ado, let's get right into the Nightmare Cup. Alright guys, diving right into the Nightmare Cup, we're going to head over to Pokebattler.com where you can really see a good idea of the rankings for this Nightmare Cup tournament. So we're going to go ahead and scroll down to the Nightmare Cup, check out the top 24 well-rounded Pokemon for this tournament to see, get a good idea of what's going to be around. And as we see a lot of the dark poison types near the top. We got Umbreon, Skuntank, Drapion, Alolan Muck. Definitely some repeats from Twilight Cup, which is good because it will save you a lot of dust if you invested in these Pokemon for that tournament. But for the Nightmare Cup, they will perform very well. And as we start to go down, we start to see other Pokemon like Shiftry, like Lucario, Honchkrow, and Murkrow. So you can definitely have some good shiny flexes there. We definitely see Pokemon like Gallade and Hypno with that confusion damage to help cover the fighting type Pokemon. And then we start to see a lot of the fighting types in Primate, Machamp, Hitmontop, Hariyama. Spiritomb as well is in there. So as we can see, there's some repeats from the Twilight Cup, but for this Nightmare Cup, you're going to have a balance of power of Dark, Psychic, and Fighting to kind of each one counters the other in a nice rock, paper, scissors with a mix of wild cards. So if we go ahead and head over to the top counters for the Nightmare Cup, we are going to see that it's really dominated by the fighting type Pokemon, because that move of counter is going to be hitting really hard against those dark poison type. And then they have some good flexibility with Fire Punch on Hitmonchan and Shadow Ball on Lucario. So as you see, it's just really heavily dominated with fighting types. So you're definitely going to want to have at least one or two fighting types on your team. And then you also see that the confusion users of Hypno and Gallade are in there. And then, you start to see the mix of the other Pokemon. If we head over to pvpoke.com, where you can also check rankings and battle simulations for the Nightmare Cup, we see that it ranks slightly differently. And Spiritomb is at the top, and as you guys see, we see Spiritomb, we see Shiftry, we see Skuntank, Alolan Raichu, Umbreon, Lucario, and then we start to get into other typing of those top ones. So Toxacoke, Drapion, Xatu makes the list for the Nightmare Cup, and then a lot of fighting types up in here. Now we also see Poliwrath and Hypno, which are going to be the legacy Pokemon you're definitely going to want to look for, and we'll get more into that later. But as we go down, you start to see the balance of power that I was talking about. You see your fighters, you see your key psychic Pokemon with confusion, and then you see a lot of your dark poison types. So we take a look at Spiritomb. Spiritomb is going to be really good and a heavy investment, with Ominous Wind giving you that boost to stats if it pops. It's going to beat a lot of those psychic type Pokemon, but it's going to get heavily dominated by Shiftry and Poliwrath, and some of the dark types like Umbreon. So take a look at Shiftry. Shiftry, because of Razor Leaf and Razor Leaf hitting so hard, it's going to dominate some Pokemon. That's going to be Spiritomb, Raichu, Poliwrath, some of the key Pokemon we will see in this tournament, but it does get beat by a good amount of the fighters. So these wild cards, I think, are going to play a bigger role than they have in other tournaments. Now, Skuntank is like bread and butter for this tournament. You're definitely going to want to have one. It's very strong. It beats a lot of the key matchup, but it does lose heavily to the fighters. But do remember that if, say, a Lucario doesn't have a shield, getting that flamethrower off will take out the Lucario. Now, personal favorite of mine, Alolan Raichu with Spark, Wild Charge, and Thunder Punch is going to be very good because it's going to do heavy neutral damage, and that Wild Charge just hits so hard, guys. But it does get countered by Shiftry heavily, but it has Thunder Punch for shield baiting and Wild Charge to hit so hard, so it's very similar to Alolan Marowak with Hex, Bone Club, and Shadow Ball. Now, Umbreon, as we see here, going to get heavily countered by the fighting type Pokemon, but does well against a mix of the meta. And Lucario. Lucario's back. Lucario will always be around, guys. Counter, Power Up Punch, Shadow Ball, your go-tos. Going to be beating the Skuntank and Drapion, the dark poison typers, but it is going to get beat by the psychic types and also beat by Toxicroak. So as you guys see, you start to get an idea of what's happening here. We have our dark poison countering the psychic countering the fighting, and the fighting countering the dark poison, with a mix of very strong wild cards for this tournament. So this is just a good starting place and a good idea of what you need to look out for, what you need to acquire. And like I said earlier, Poliwrath with Mudshot, that legacy move with Mudshot, Power Up Punch, and then you maybe go for Hydro Pump or Dynamic Punch. It's going to be performing pretty well, but it is going to get countered heavily by Shiftry, countered pretty heavily by some of the Psychic Pokemon. So it does have its weaknesses, and then the other Pokemon, Hypno with Confusion and Shadow Ball, is going to be very strong. It's going to counter all your fighters, but it's going to get walled by a Pokemon like Umbreon and Spiritomb. So you really won't be able to do anything there. It's kind of like the same circumstance that Venomoth was for the Twilight Cup, but in the Nightmare Cup, it's going to do well as well. So one thing that's hilarious, Wobbuffet making the top 34 with Counter and Mirror Coat is going to beat a Toxicroak. It's going to beat Hitmonchan. It's going to beat Alolan Raticate. So it's really funny that it can actually be used, but it is going to be beat by Spiritomb, Umbreon, Xatu, Hypno. So it's funny that you could actually use it for this tournament. Obviously, it's going to be heavy investment because you'll have to max it out to level 40. So there goes all your Stardust. But if you're rolling in the dough, that could be a funny Pokemon to have for your tournament to throw people off. So if we take a look at the leads now, so that was overall. If we take a look at the leads, Alolan Raichu ranking 100. Because Spark, Wild Charge, Thunder Punch, you can bait shields heavily because people are going to have to block that Wild Charge. And as we see, we start to go down. Like I said, Spark, Wild Charge, Thunder Punch is going to beat Xatu, Skuntank, but it is going to get heavily countered by Shiftry, which is going to be a key Pokemon for this tournament. We also see Skuntank up there, and Shiftry and Spiritomb, Lucario, Umbreon. Definitely just a power meta right there. Now closers. So Pokemon with no shields. Raichu again, 100. Spiritomb, 100. And it's just, these Pokemon are so strong because of their charge moves and what they can do and how fast they can get to them. Now attackers. Pokemon against shielded opponents while unshielded. Shiftry with that Razor Leaf damage is going to be putting in some work. Especially to Pokemon who are weak to grass, but it is going to get countered by your dark poison type Pokemon. And as we see, we got Umbreon and Wobbuffet, Wobbuffet making the third attacker. And then defenders, Pokemon who have shielded against unshielded opponents. Skuntank again, very strong choice. Raichu again, very strong choice. Metagross makes it up there because of that Meteor Mash with Bullet Punch. Spiritomb as well. So that just gives you guys an idea of what Pokemon to look out for, and that these wild cards are going to play a huge role in this Nightmare Cup tournament. Alright, getting right into some battles. Facing off against Zarmillo here. We repping those new shirts there. Awesome free new shirts in the shop if you haven't gotten them already. So I'm going to go ahead and lead with Shiftry. He leads with Gardevoir. So this is, a pretty favorable matchup because look at how much damage that Razor Leaf's doing to that Gardevoir. It's just tearing through it. He's got to switch out of there. He switches into Toxicroak. Go ahead and get off this Leaf Blade here. Try to burn a shield. We don't get a shield, but we do a ton of damage right there. So we are going to get Toxicroak very low. So that just goes to show how strong Shiftry is with its Razor Leaf damage. So we're going to go ahead and shield this right here on Hitmonchan. Go ahead and start doing some counters to take out that Toxicroak. Get some stored energy. And we are going to go right into a Fire Punch against this Gardevoir. Let's see what he does. He does shield it. Okay, we're going to switch out of there, I should say, into Umbreon to absorb whatever charge move this is. And it is a Shadow Ball, so it's not going to do a lot of damage to an Umbreon. So we go ahead and finish off the Gardevoir. The next Pokemon he has coming in is going to be a Alolan Muck. So we're just going to spam Dark Pulses here to try to get that last shield. So we don't burn the shield, but we do a little bit of damage, and we're just going to keep spamming away here. Try to chunk him down as much as we can to set our Hitmonchan up to finish off the Alolan Muck. So we get the next Dark Pulse off. We do get the shield. So we're just going to keep plugging away here. He seems like he's wanting to store a ton of energy. So he goes ahead and uses a charge move. We're going to let our Umbreon go down. It is Dark Pulse, so it's not going to do a lot of damage to us. And we do get a last second Dark Pulse off here. Get him pretty low. And then we have to bring in Hitmonchan here to finish things off. And we get him with the one counter. So GG's. Alright, moving into the next game. Gonna lead with Hitmonchan this time. He leads with Alolan Muck, so this is a good, favorable matchup for us. We're just gonna start spamming those counters, doing lots of damage, go straight into the Fire Punch. And Hitmonchan having those low cost energy moves is gonna be able to get a lot of damage off very quickly. And also possibly force shields. So we do get him out of there before he can get a charge move off. We're going to go straight into Fire Punch for whatever's coming in. It is a Bronzong. So we get super effective damage off there, taking about half his health down, but we are going to get out of there, go into Skuntank, because Bronzong having Confusion is going to do super effective damage, but he bails into Poliwrath. So we're going to go ahead and go into a Crunch here to start burning some shields. We do get one shield. And we have a Crunch ready to go again, so we're going to go ahead and get another Crunch off, try to do some decent damage here. So we get Poliwrath about over halfway down. We're going to go ahead and not shield here, I believe. Yeah, we don't shield because we might be able to get this Power-Up Punch off. Nope, we don't get it. So we're just going to let Skuntank go down to this Power-Up Punch. We're going to go ahead and bring in Alolan Raichu now. We're going to have to shield this. We want to keep Alolan Raichu very topped up because it is very strong for this tournament. Go ahead and store a ton of energy off this Poliwrath. Now whatever he has coming in, we're going to go straight into Wild Charge here. He does get a charge move off though, so we're going to have to shield this. And then we're going to go right into a Wild Charge. Let's see how much damage it does here against the Bronzong. So he does block it. But we are able to get another Wild Charge off because it just charges so fast. This will be able to finish off the Bronzong here. So GG's there. Alright. Moving into the final game of the series here. We're against Rua. Discord mod for the Battle Park. So shout out to him. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into the game. And he brings something really interesting to this battle, which I just found absolutely hilarious, and you guys will see why. So I lead with Hitmonchan, and he leads with Wobbuffet. Mind you guys, this Wobbuffet isn't fully powered up. But I just want you guys to see that I'm not doing any damage to this thing. I didn't know what to counter with Wobbuffet really. I mean, I have, I could use a Skuntank or whatever, but I didn't think he was going to bring it. So I'm going to go ahead and swap into Skuntank to try to get some crunches off. He is going to get a Mirror Coat off here. Wobbuffet only has one charge move, so you automatically know it's Mirror Coat. We're going to go ahead and go into a Crunch here to try to burn a shield or do some super effective damage. He does shield, and then he's going to store up some more energy, and then we are going to get another Crunch off here, try to finish off this Wobbuffet. He shields again and bails out of there. He comes in with Toxicroak, which is a deadly counter for a Skuntank, as you guys know. So we'll go ahead and get a Crunch off to an unshielded Toxicroak. do a lot of damage here, but he is storing all of his energy. So we're going to go ahead and bring in Hitmonchan to go counter versus counter. We are going to shield these charge moves coming in to keep our Hitmonchan topped up. Now he does get another charge move off here, so we're going to have to shield it. Go ahead and finish off the Toxicroak with fast attacks and go straight into fire punches here. So it's his Wobbuffet again. We're going to go ahead and get a fire punch off. It's ridiculous how much this Wobbuffet can take. He uses the Mirror Coat to finish off my Hitmonchan. His Wobbuffet is still alive. Alright, we got a Alolan Raichu though, so we're just going to store a ton of energy. We can't block this at all. It is a Mirror Coat, so it's not going to do super effective damage to us because we are a Psychic typing. But his last Pokemon here, we are going to get a Wild Charge off. And you guys will see how much damage this does. It does a ton of damage, guys. That was nearly all of his health with one Wild Charge. So we go ahead and finish off with another Wild Charge, and GG's. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys found it informative. So be sure to smash that like button and comment down below and let me know what you guys are finding that is performing very well for the Nightmare Cup. And like always, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.